Brazil's Supreme Federal Court moves forward in the trial against former far-right President Jair Bolsonaro for the January 2023 coup attempt. In France, dozens of people were arrested on Wednesday during protests against the government's cuts. And the Israeli regime attacked another high-rise building in Gaza City as it continues its attempt to seize control of the Palestinian territory. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. We begin with the information. Brazil's Supreme Federal Court moves forward in the trial against former far-right President Jair Bolsonaro for the January of 2023 coup attempt. On Wednesday, the sessions began for the final verdict that could convict the former Brazilian president and 7 accomplices for coup plotting. Experts point out that there is sufficient evidence to declare the accused guilty. However, if there are not enough votes, the defense may file an appeal, which could take the case to the Supreme Court. Justices Alexandre de Moraes and Flavio Dino were the first of the 5 magistrates to vote, and both chose to convict Bolsonaro. If receives the required votes, the former president could face up to 43 years in prison. And the International Police Cooperation Center of the Amazon was inaugurated on Tuesday in the Brazilian city of Manaus. The purpose of the center is to combat environmental crimes, organized crime, and human trafficking in collaboration with Bolivia, Ecuador, Guyana, Peru, Suriname, Venezuela, and Colombia. The inauguration of this center comes after the Amazonian Countries Summit, where a 35-point declaration was approved to strengthen the common agenda and pave a route towards the COP30 climate change conference. The police center aims to consolidate itself as an international body to monitor and neutralize criminal networks that operate in the Amazon.
We must talk about the possible invasion of Venezuela, which they are threatening to do. I hope it's only words. Colombia will not lend its territory for the invasion of any neighboring country, nor will it lend any of its men, unless they are traitors and genocidal. How can we allow an invasion of Venezuela?
And during the same event, Brazilian President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva emphasized the importance of protecting the Amazon.
In 2 months,
I will be in Belém to participate in the COP30, the multilateral conference that will define whether people want to truly care for planet Earth. To fly over the vast green expanse of the Amazon rainforest makes one realize about the extraordinary scale of everything related to the Amazon region. Millions of square kilometers, millions of cubic meters of water, millions of animal and plant species, and also millions of inhabitants.
And we go now to Argentina because President Javier Milei threatens to take legal action to oppose the emergency disability law after the Senate rejected the presidential veto. Milei decided to veto all health-related laws on the grounds of insufficient financial resources. However, the disability emergency will remain in effect until December 31st of 2027, following the rejection of the veto issued last August. This law seeks to ensure that the state complies with the commitments made in the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities. In this context, Milei insists on taking Congress' counter-proposal to court, which could exacerbate the political and economic crisis in Argentina that the country is experiencing. And on Tuesday, the Russian Foreign Ministry summoned the Argentine ambassador in Moscow, Enrique Ignacio Ferrer Vieira, for the unfounded allegations made by the Argentine Security Minister Patricia Bullrich involving the Russian Federation. In an official statement, the Russian Foreign Ministry expressed its rejection of the statements made by Patricia Bullrich, who suggested that Russian intelligence could be involved in an illegal recording at the Argentine government headquarters. Moscow has described these statements as unacceptable and without any evidence, and therefore the ambassador will have to provide a detailed explanation of the allegations. This incident occurs in the context of the bribery scandal involving the director of the president's office and the president's sister, Karina Milei. And Venezuela accused on Tuesday the country's far-right sectors of carrying out a disinformation campaign to justify a U.S. military escalation against the South American nation. According to the Bolivarian National Armed Forces, the information circulating on social media about the presence of a U.S. helicopter in the vicinity of the Venezuelan island territory is false. For his part, the country's Minister of Defense, Vladimir Padrino Lopez, denounced that the information is part of a psychological aggression campaign that the United States has historically imposed on sovereign peoples to create fictitious scenarios that justify armed interventions. And in other news, the Mexican government revealed a corruption scandal involving the Secretary of the Navy. It is the illegal fuel trafficking network known in Mexico as Huachicol. The body of the Navy Captain Abraham Jose Jeremias Perez Ramirez was found at the Port Protection Unit in Tamaulipas, northeastern Mexico. The officer had been accused of accepting bribes from a fuel trafficking network. This information was revealed when the government of President Claudia Sheinbaum announced the arrest of 14 individuals associated with the network back in September 6th. Those arrested included business people and public officials as well. They are all implicated in an investigation into the seizure of 10 million liters of fuel in the northeast of the country. Now we have a short break coming up, but first, remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with more information. In France, dozens of people were arrested this Wednesday during protests against the government cuts. More information on this, the protest called by the movement Block Everything, a spontaneous citizen initiative, took to the streets across the entire country. In this context, in different cities, blockades, gatherings, marches, and various demonstrations were observed. Although the call for action proposes a total shutdown of the country, we were looking at this information and they are saying that it is peaceful in nature. However, early in the morning, Paris experienced clashes with security forces, resulting in nearly 75 arrests. In this regard, President Emmanuel Macron has deployed 80,000 security agents on the streets to contain protesters who reject the austerity measures and accuse the government of trying to make them pay for its war crimes. Meanwhile, President Emmanuel Macron has appointed Sébastien Lecornu as his new head of government. Lecornu's appointment comes after François Bayrou formalized his resignation after losing the no-confidence motion in the National Assembly after only 9 months as Prime Minister. Lecornu is the only minister to have remained in government since President Emmanuel Macron was first elected in 2017, surviving countless reshoots and one early dissolution. In the sense, Sébastien Lecornu will be responsible for proposing a new government to Macron, guided in the defense of the country's political and institutional stability.
Merci beaucoup. Alors pour cela, il va falloir aussi changer. être sûrement plus créatif.
We will also have to change, be more creative, sometimes more technical, more serious in the way we work with our opponents. I will have the opportunity to come back to this. We have just talked about it at length, but I will also say that we will need to make breaks, not only in form and method, but also in substance.
Mesdames, Messieurs, je vais pas faire de grands discours.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am not going to make a grand speech. As the instability and the political and parliamentary crisis we are experiencing call for humility and sobriety, I would obviously like to thank the President of the Republic for his confidence in me. But above all, I would like to thank you for the support you are offering me, which I do not refuse, and for good reason. Above all, I would like to salute the extraordinary courage with which you have defended your deeply held convictions as activists and citizens until this very last minute at Matinho.
We go now to Haiti as the transitional government once again opted for armed intervention to confront the criminal groups that control a large part of the country. Prime Minister Alix Didier Filseme announced the measure after a meeting with the United Nations Security Council, noting that it is key to recover the state authority and protect communities. The mission, led by Kenya and with support from the United States, arrived in Haiti in 2024 with nearly 1,000 troops and is set to end this October, as agreed with the United Nations. Not only did they fail to weaken the criminal groups, but aggravated the humanitarian crisis, worsened the situation for displaced people, while avoiding to touch the weapons trafficking routes. And it is in this context that the University Hospital of La Paix, located in Port-au-Prince, capital of Haiti, is close to shutting down services. On Tuesday, the Undersecretary General of the United Nations for Humanitarian Affairs, Tom Fletcher, reported that the lack of funding could lead to the collapse of the hospital. The center not only treats patients with chronic and acute illnesses, it is also the only one able to care victims of armed violence. Fletcher warned that without new sources of funding, the hospital could run out of resources and dismiss a significant number of its medical staff. This situation threatens to leave the most vulnerable population in the capital without essential medical care. And on Wednesday morning, the Cuban government informed of the nationwide disconnection of the power grid due to an unexpected output of the Antonio Guiterres power station. Precisely, the director of the power plant located in the Matanzas province, Ruben Campos, informed that the incident was triggered by a false signal of superheated steam that caused the plant boiler's automatic system to shut down. In the aftermath, the first secretary of the Communist Party in the region, Mario Sabines, updated the issue has been fixed and that the unit is ready to start operations as soon as possible. In this context, Cuban Prime Minister Manuel Marrero Cruz visited the National Charge Office, a department of the National Power Company, where he held talks with Director General and informed that immediate actions are being taken to advance in the recovery of the grid, especially with the creation of microsystems that will enable the gradual restoration of the service. And according to recent data from Costa Rica's National Institute of Statistics, 22.4% of children in the country live in poverty. Of those children, 11.6% live below the extreme poverty line. The Huetar Caribbean region is the most affected, with an extreme poverty rate of 20.8%. In contrast, the central region, the most developed area, has an extreme poverty rate of 8%. Many children in this region live in poor quality housing with inadequate services, and the situation is affecting 820,000 people, children in particular between the ages of 0 and 12, representing 15.8% of the country's total population. Expressed in this way, this current situation perpetuates the cycle of poverty and limits their future opportunities. And according to a report released on Tuesday by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, 1 in 10 children and adolescents between the ages of 5 and 19 endure obesity. The research warned that 188 million children could suffer from serious diseases such as type 2 diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular problems. Overconsumption of processed food is also one of the factors, and also exposure to fast food advertising that is displacing healthy eating, affecting their growth and development. UNICEF emphasized that children's diets do not depend only on their choices, but also on environments where these foods predominate and the advertising that is present in stores, schools, and social media. We have a second short break coming up, but before, we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English. There you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverages, and much more. Follow our page and activate notifications to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. We continue with more information. In this case, we go to Palestine because the Israeli regime attacked another high-rise building in Gaza City on Wednesday as it continues its attempt to seize control of the Palestinian territory. The strike on the Tiva 2 tower makes it the 7th major building hit in recent weeks in the besieged urban center as part of Tel Aviv's plans to capture the city and force the displacement of its 1 million residents. In this scenario, on Friday, the regime's military also struck a 12-story building, Mushtaha Tower, located in the western side of the city, claiming without evidence that it was part of Hamas infrastructure. The destruction of residential buildings seeks to render Gaza City uninhabitable for Israel to execute its illegal occupation plan, another genocidal action that amounts to the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people. And it is in this context that the global Summit flotilla confirmed a new drone attack by Israel on another of its vessels, the ship El Alma, while it was moored in Tunisian waters. The ship was sailing under the British flag and suffered damage from a fire on its upper deck. And according to reports, the fire has now been extinguished and all the passengers and crew are safe. This is the second attack of this type in 2 days and comes amidst the escalation of Israeli aggression against the Palestinians in Gaza. However, the Sumud Global Flotilla remains steadfast in its journey to break Israel's illegal siege of the Palestinian enclave and maintain solidarity with its people. In Yemen, the Israel forces struck a defense complex in a large neighborhood located in the middle of the capital, Sana'a. Authorities reported a number of explosions on Wednesday due to approximately 6 airstrikes from the Zionist forces against the territory. In this context, the spokesman of the Yemeni Armed Forces, Yahya Saree, said that the nation's defense keeps on air operative to bring down Israeli planes which try to hit the country, assuring that some of the regime's combat formations were forced to withdraw before carrying out their efforts, thus thwarting most of the offensive. During his intervention, Saree also condemned Tel Aviv's attack on Tuesday against the leaders of the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas, who were in Doha, Qatar, for ceasefire negotiations. And more international reactions to this attack. The Russian Foreign Ministry denounced the missile attacks by Israel against Qatar, describing them as a step leading to further escalation on violence in the Middle East. According to this authority, the attacks undermine international efforts to reach a peaceful solution to the ongoing conflict, which amounts to genocide, especially when Qatar is acting as a key mediator. The Russian government considers these actions represent a serious violation of international law and sovereignty of an independent state. In this context, it calls on all parties involved to act responsibly and avoid actions that could escalate the tension in the genocide against the Palestinian people. Also on Wednesday, the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, presented a series of measures to the European Parliament in response to the escalating genocide perpetrated against the population of Gaza by the Israeli occupation forces. Among the belated and mild proposals is the imposition of sanctions against Israeli ministers considered extremist and against violent settlers in the West Bank. She also suggested suspending bilateral support for Israel and stopping all payments in these areas, assuring that these actions would not affect work with Israeli civil society. In addition, von der Leyen proposed the partial suspension of the association agreement with regard to trade matters and also described the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip as unacceptable, emphasizing the need for a decisive response to the current crisis. And U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders also harshly criticized Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and urged Washington to end its military support for Israel. In a message posted on Tuesday on his X account, Sanders asserted that Netanyahu's extremist government is completely out of control. Not only are they starving children in Gaza, they are now breaking international law by dropping bombs on Qatar, a U.S. security partner. When is enough enough? No more U.S. military aid to Israel. We continue now with other topics. The Nepali army has ordered people in Kathmandu to stay home amid mass unrest gripping the capital following a wave of deadly protests. An indefinite curfew was imposed to supposedly normalize the situation in Kathmandu after mass unrest saw demonstrators set fire to several government buildings and forced Prime Minister Sharma Oli to resign. The protests, triggered by a social media ban, have escalated since Monday when security forces killed 19 demonstrators and injured hundreds. Tens of thousands filled Kathmandu streets on Monday and Tuesday as the protests continue and expanded to target corruption and unemployment in the country's most violent tumult in decades. And the youth-led demonstrations have shown massive displays against the social inequality that affects the country since its transition from monarchy to a republic in the year 2008. Among the main causes of the unrest are the corruption and embezzlement scandals by political elites, the culture of nepotism, where the politicians' sons enjoy privileges and luxuries, high unemployment, inflation, and the lack of access to basic public services such as health and education.
Until now, Gen Z had only expressed themselves on social media. They had not taken to the streets. Now that social media has been shut down, those who relied on online businesses are in serious trouble. We have realized that we need to raise our voices. We need to take to the streets. The Gen Z generation must speak out against the disorder that this government and its leaders have caused.
We gathered here, social media ban go against
We gathered here against the social media ban. It was triggered by the ban, but the reason behind the movement today is not just that. We are here against institutionalized corruption, and we are also here to question where our tax money goes, as simple as that. And our right to free speech has been snatched away.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Also join us on social media. We're on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For teleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.